as usual, I always start making sure that I make 2 different sleeves. So this will be the first seam we do. So I place them first like this. Exactly not like this. Like this. You see? Now they are symmetrical, and these should be sewn together there. And pin it. First thing. So that is the first thing. The seams I will use on everything here, I think, is flat filled seam. This fabric, it do not fringe a lot, but it's thin enough so it will not be bulky. So it will be nice. So, how stupid is it to have so many needles when there's only 2 ferrite needles? Maybe I will learn it someday not to have more than. I will sew this together with Mora yarn. It is 2-ply and it is 22 thickness. It's not super strong, but since there's 2 seams, a running stitch and an overcast on the seam, it will work perfectly. So, this is the top of the sleeve and this is the back, which means that there will be a seam back on the lower part. That long strip here, it covers the elbow. And it's not a piece. It's not a patch, it's a piece. It is a piece. So it's inserted in it. But what I had to think of now is which way to turn the seam allowance so that when I stand behind the person that I look over the seam like this. And that should be in there. So it had to go up. Seam allowance have to go up, which means that this should be the longest. There's 0.5 centimeter from there to there. So, running stitch. No, not here. 3 on top of each other. You must be tired of me saying that if you have seen more than one class. Okay. Running stitch. The cat is doing something weird out there. I wonder what she's up to. Okay, when you come to the end of this little seam, don't break the thread, because then you just turn it. Take in the seam allowance around the other. And overcast. Those overcasts shall not go all the way through the fabric here. It should only, there's a point in my finger under, so it will just be small hole structures. Three or 4 millimeters max. I think she's trying to get nice. Oops. So, that was that. I don't know if you can see it, but now you look over the seam. And now, I should insert this. The next seam is the top line here. And then we make those after. First seam after this little one in the top is the little short one. Look on the marks on the pattern sheet, because it's important that you don't turn this the wrong way. Then you'll have to stay with your arms like this instead of like this. So, first, because we are sewing around like that, when you pin this first, then you will have one seam allowance, one seam allowance. So you have 2 seam allowance there from this and in. That is the point. And you pin it there. And then you pin it 1 seam allowance, of course, inside from this. And again, I want the pieces inserted, not patched on the top. So the longest seam allowance is always on the gusset godet, or in this case, the piece that is going inside inserted in it. So I have a 1/2 centimeter on this one out there, and then in there to the next to the sleeve fabric. Then there's naturally 2 seam allowance between that edge and that edge. So I will sew it with 1 seam allowance. Now I'm in the corner so I don't break it again. On this seam I do not make the bending and the overcast now. I do that when all three are sewn in. But now this little trick, as you might know, to be able to bend it down and it will be beautiful, is in here. To cut up from the corner in the blouse and up to the seam, or up to maybe 1-2 millimeters from it. So then you can open it and easily turn it down so you can place the other. Like this. And of course, all the time, the seam allowance from the piece is the biggest. Where is the thread? It's there, of course. So, pin the other side, where the thread is. So, rhyme stitch from the corner. So now the piece is inserted, run in stitch, and overcast all the way around. And now it's time to start the decoration. I have made one finished here. You see this cuff coming on the wrist, and then I have made 2 small decorations on it, embroideries. This one is found in the mammon grave and also on a sort of a cap from Netherlands, same time. On the skjoldeham neckline is all around. And then I made a stem stitch here to hold it a little. But first thing to do is to sew this one together. And since the seam will be covered inside, I do not make the flat fill seam. I just make a running stitch, fold the seams out to each side, and make a little overcast, or maybe a running stitch. We'll see. That was very long. Now just out to the side. Then I make small running stitch. It could be overcast or whatever. Today is the 6th of May, and it is raining, of course, but it's also hagel and a little snow. What is going on? Perfect weather for craft and tea and fire inside. Okay. This is going to end up on the right side, so now I have to put it to what? Wrong side to wrong side. And now I do not place the seam on top of one of those seams. There's two seams here, and one of this, so I place this in between so that it will not be so thick in the end. Just to make sure. So maybe you can see it here, but this structure that will come from the next seam is quite, you can see it, right? I've done that with double thread, partly to get this clear structure, but also because this is a seam that are used a lot. You touch it all the time, so that's why I do it, double thread. But comments, running stitch. She removed my mark for the shoulder seam. Cat. so. And now, when I do not take it 1-to-1, I roll it a little so I get that extra free decoration. Now I make the stem stitch around the edge to make this little decoration. It also gives this very firm and nice edge. Stem stitch. Where there is seams under, you have to go all the way through and up again, or else the stitches will be too long if you don't do that. Here I have this thick stitch seam under. Like so. All the way around. Now that is on. And now I will bend in the seam allowance on the top. Make sure it's smooth under. Now I sew that, really just attach it in a way to the sleeve with small running stitch on the edge. This little seam will be covered by the embroidery after, but I do it in the same color as the embroidery, as you can see here, so to make sure it will not be seen through. So, all the way around. I can just continue with the same thread, of course. Now I shall make the embroidery. This embroidery are found on a coffin pillow in the Mammon grave. It's found around the neckline in Skjoldheim, north of Norway, and it's also found on some caps from Netherlands, also from Viking time. I'm sure several more places. But this is how you start. So up now in the fabric, now you go under. All the stitches are going like this, directly 90 degrees on. So first you go back and under. You can decide, of course, how long you will. So now you see it's lying like that. And then I stitch again from the same side, 2 millimeters under where I went in last time, and out. I want to make this 3-4 millimeters wide. You can do it exactly like you. And now, up till 2 millimeters under this, and out there. And now you are going. And then you see there's 2 up here. Then you go between or over that, directly on the other side. Under. Under. And 2 up. And out there. You see, when I've pulled this in, there's also 2 there. 2 there. Now they are there, you see? And I go under again. All the way. Around.